Commanders winning the whole thing.
It's honestly a smart choice. Why not?
Yeah, let me know when we're recording.
We're recording already. Come on, man. I hit record and it's game time. Welcome back to another episode of Real Talk. Brad, Jeff, you guys know the drill. What's going on, dude?
Oh, man, I just, the more you see highlights or watch the quarterback series on Netflix or hear about teams reporting to camp, football's almost here, man. And then you see 50 days till NFL and think, that means 38 or something like that till college. I mean, we're almost there. We're a month away.
I have a question. I was listening to an episode of Bussin' with the Boys today, and they had their coach, Mike Vrabel, their former coach, Mike Vrabel on. Great podcast, by the way. I haven't completely finished it, but so far it's been great. And there was a discussion on there I want to run by you.
Uh-oh.
If you're a practice squad player, and you get called up for one game, you're on practice squad all year. You get called up for one game, you play, you make a tackle. Did you play a full season in the NFL?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah, if you're on the practice squad, you are employed by that football team. You played a season. But are you saying statistically it'll go down? He played 15 seasons in the NFL, but, 7 of them were 80% practice squad, or like?
So the thing is the new rule with the NFL collective bargaining agreement, if you're only a practice squad player for 5 years, like you never play in a game, you never suit up, you technically did not play in the NFL. Okay. But once you become a rostered player and you put in the correct amount of years, it's called getting vested. Okay. It's basically where you get your pension and all that, right? Then at that point, they start to consider practice squad years as long as you appeared in at least one game. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so if you're a practice squad team player for 6 years, and then in your 7th year you play 3 NFL games and you meet the requirement, they then take into account the 6 years of practice squad, and then they say you played for 7 years in terms of the health benefits.
Yeah. Correct. They don't want to give that to you until you've basically vested yourself into an NFL roster for X amount of years, and then they'll back give it to you as soon as you then meet the requirements. But anyways, the reason this got brought up is because obviously it's no secret, like Taylor Lewan, first round pick, Pro Bowler a couple times, made probably $80 million in his NFL career. Mike Vrabel was obviously a 3-time Super Bowl champion, couple-time Pro Bowler, very well-known player. He's now a head coach. Will Compton, that's not quite the case. I mean, he was literally a great player in college and has come to the NFL. I think he was undrafted. He was a practice squad player, had to earn every snap he ever got, made a couple rosters. I think he was voted captain with Washington a little bit. But at the end of the day, like, he doesn't have your stereotypical drafted first 10 years retire. He literally had to earn his way into the league. And one year he only played one game. And Vrabel straight up looks at him and said, yeah, you didn't play in the NFL that year. And he's like, that's like you going out for a round of golf, playing the first hole and saying, yeah, I played golf today. Like, no, you didn't. Yeah, it's a fun conversation. But
yeah, I guess there's so much in the minor details that each situation merits its own level of investigating to determine what it is. But yeah, I guess yeah, that's very tricky. That's very
I mean, I'm not, I guess for me, obviously, I've never played it down in the NFL, nor practice squad or anything. So I'm not going to tell Will Compton that he didn't earn his first year in the league or whatever it was. But Vrabel, who's won 3 Super Bowls, a household name in NFL history, he's like, yeah, you didn't play. I just thought it was savage. I'm like,
just slapped it right across his face. Yeah, you did. That's so Vrabel. That's just
it is brave. It's very Vrabel. Let's start her off. This is the NFC East. This is not quite wrapping up the NFC. We got NFC North coming to you next week. This is going to be a fun one. I think this division's very nice, very good. It had one of our top highlighted clips that made the best of podcast last year when you predicted the Eagles to basically be a juggernaut. Yeah, I'm excited for this one. I hope you are too.
Yeah, I'm always excited for the NFC East. I think most people bracket this off as, a bottom tier where we say how bad or how good do you think these Washington and New York teams could be? And then how far do the Cowboys and Eagles go? It's kind of split into twos, and everyone knows the Cowboys and Eagles somehow go 1-1 against each other every year. It doesn't matter. So I think what was last year the first time there was a repeat champion, or was it the Cowboys 2 years ago and then the Eagles last year?
I believe it was the Cowboys 2 years ago, Eagles last year.
It wasn't a repeat. Eagles won it twice, but still, it's just this division's always fun.
Yeah. Well, we're going to start off with the Washington Commanders in their second season. That's kind of funny, isn't it? It's the second season of the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, considering they've gone through 3 team names.
Yeah.
Football team, geez, OP.
Here's a bonker stat.
Uh-oh.
As long as this podcast has been around, it's been around for a while, but not forever. The Washington Redskins Commanders
football team.
We have seen them have 3 different names. That is insane.
Yeah, and at the same time, the entire NFL has had 3 name changes. Or 2 name changes. It's all been
Oh, goodness. So last year, weirdly enough, last place team, but they were 8-1. They were a 500 football team, okay? 2-3-1 in division. They did hire a new offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy, famously known for being the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, 2 Super Bowl championships there. Their ads. Quarterback Jacoby Brissett. Tons of linemen. I'm going to say a couple of names here, but literally it's like they revamped the entire offensive line. Andrew Wiley, Nick Gates, Trent Scott. Those are a couple there. They re-signed their center. Linebacker Cody Barton. Okay. They re-signed De'Aaron Payne. Am I saying that right?
De'Aaron Payne, yep.
Yeah, De'Aaron Payne.
So.
He was tagged. They signed him to a 4-year $90. They didn't waste much time either. They tagged him, and I think he was one of the first guys to actually get a deal. They drafted 16th overall pick Emmanuel Farbs. Am I saying that right? Farbies?
Forbes. It's an
Forbes.
Forbes.
Okay. So cornerback, and then in the second round, they took a safety, Travarius Martin. So it's weird. In free agency, they kind of addressed the offensive line. They re-signed their players they need to re-sign, and then they went out and tried to shore up the back end in the draft. Interesting strategy as far as losses go. Quarterback, friend of the pod, Taylor Heineke, gone. Running back, Jared McKissick. Quarterback, Carson Wentz, gone. And then defensive end, Shaka Toney is suspended, I believe, for betting on games. He's not necessarily a loss, but I did want to put that down there.
Who's the linebacker that they lost? They lost a linebacker, I thought. One of their captains.
Well, if they did, I did not write it down.
Hold on, let me find his name. I'm mad that I don't, only because he was a captain of the team. I believe he had over 100 last year.
Is this Jerry? Gerry?
No, I don't think it's that. He went to the Steelers. That's why I'm mad that I can't remember his name.
Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Is it Holcomb?
Yeah, Holcomb. That's it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
so
Holcomb.
Yeah, so he declared as a free agent. He was a captain last year, huh?
He was a captain.
So he was hurt last year, but 2 years ago in 2021, he played all games, 142 tackles. So solid linebacker, solid linebacker. But last year he was hurt. So
gotcha. All right, little sidebar there. Sorry about it.
No, don't ever be sorry. That's why we're here to talk football, make sure we get things right. So here we are, Washington. Those are the ads. Those are the losses. Obviously, offensive coordinator, 500 football team. What do you want to add?
Not a whole lot. I mean, the thing is with this team is I think they have a lot of weapons at the wide receiver spot. I think they run truly 3 deep. I think they have a really good receiving core. Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson, I think, is a nice 1-2-headed punch. Logan Thomas is a good tight end. So I think this team is going to get overlooked, but I think there's a lot of really good things here on offense. We know that their defensive line is great across the front four, but it lacks depth, and Chase Young ended up, I don't even think he ever played last year. So we'll see if the rookies can help on the back end. The only thing is they play, 4 games against 2 of the best teams in the NFC and maybe even the whole league in the Eagles and Cowboys. So in division, it's not great. I just think Eric Bieniemy has had Patrick Mahomes and now he has Howell. I'm wondering to see if there's any frustration from the offensive coordinator, Eric, who maybe feels like halfway through the season, is he going to feel like I should have been a head coach? I shouldn't have had to prove it elsewhere. And then he goes to Washington and they can't get things right. A lot really depends on Sam Howell. We know that this league is mainly offensive. You got to have a good offense. You got to have a good quarterback. So there's a lot up in the air. But as you alluded to, people hear the word Commanders, and, maybe we've done this on some of our breakdowns. We see them and we're like, oh, well, that's a dub for whoever we're looking at Washington. But that's just not the case. This team can win games. I think they're gonna be another 7-10 win team. They're not a pushover, but they're kind of right in the middle with their quarterback play.
Interesting. 7-10 wins, huh?
I do. I think they could be a 7-10 win team. The good news is shortly we're going to go through their schedule, and I will still believe that. But Sam Howell finished their season, and he's got a little bit of experience. I don't know. Sam Howell got some time to play. They basically put him in late in the season, last game, and he beat the Cowboys. So.
Yeah, I mean,
they cleared out Taylor Heineke for him, and Taylor Heineke was winning games for them. So that makes me think they saw something.
Yeah, you have to at some point take a chance on somebody that you have in your building and want to move forward with. A couple of things about Sam Howell, I guess. College football at North Carolina set school records for most passing touchdowns at 38 in a single year, and career passing yards 10,000 and career passing touchdowns. 5th round of the 2022 draft to Washington. As of right now, he's got 1 game under his belt, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 169 yards, 57 completion. He also had 35 rushing yards and a touchdown. So, it wasn't a horrible effort. And as you alluded to, he got the W. I don't know what to think of Sam Howell. You think he has what?
I just think he has so many weapons too. I think this is a very if you were to ask somebody at your job, hey, what are the top 5 or 10 skill position groups in the NFL? I don't even think people are even going to the Commanders. But Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, Logan Thomas, Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson, that's a lot of really good players, I think.
Yeah, you're mostly right. There's definitely things I like redoing the offensive line. They already have a great pass rush, and you're right. They have solid skill players. I'll give you that. I'm not disagreeing. I just see this as a very average football team. I think if they have an outdated head coach, they have a bottom 4 quarterback in the league, just off the top of my head, and those things typically don't translate to wins. And I understand they got 8 of them last year. Totally understand that. But I also think there's a lot of NFC teams that weren't very good last year. They obviously got some wins there. They struggled in division, which, to be fair, all 3 of their division foes made the playoffs. They were the sole that did not, and they were 8-1. So I understand where you're coming from. I guess at this point I would just have to see who they're playing and why they're playing and who I take them with. But as of right now, it's hard for me to envision this team as more than 5 wins.
Yeah. I know that a lot of people don't know the names on this defense, and they didn't lose a ton on defense, but they had the 11th best rush defense and the 4th best pass defense in terms of yards allowed in the entire NFL last year. So this defense was very alluded to, they played NFC opponents. Now, it's a good thing that they're going to do that again. But the unfortunate thing is, not for the fans, as we get to watch the Eagles and the Giants and the Cowboys take these teams on, but the NFC East drew the AFC East. So they do have the Bills, Jets, Dolphins, Patriots. So there is reason to believe this team could be just as good, but you're right, it may be a decline in wins with them pulling what could be the strongest in football in the AFC East. Definitely has a case.
Yeah. It's weird because, top of my head, this is the bottom 5 team in the league. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued at what this team looks like throughout the course of the year. They obviously always have solid fantasy options with McLaurin, some running backs. Quarterback plays a massive question mark. Coaching is situational. Football isn't a question mark, but just offensive play calling will be a question mark, even with the addition of Eric Bieniemy. I'm ready for the schedule when you are.
Yeah, I'll just say I think there's some fantasy point opportunities here, but the more I dive into their schedule, which I was kind of just briefly doing while you were talking there, the random AFC team they drew happened to be the Broncos, who I think is a much improved team, and they drew the NFC West, which is a pretty strong division outside of the Cardinals. So we'll get right into Commanders week 1. They host the Cardinals. I think that's a win.
Yeah, home team without doesn't look like Kyler Murray's going to start game 1. Yeah, this is a great setup for them. If you can win game 1, you immediately. We say this all the time on this pod. Good teams don't know how bad they are to start the year, especially when you win. So I give them a win there.
I have a question. Do you have the schedule in front of you, or do
I just listen to you? I listen to you.
Okay. So I'm just going to give you this. Bad teams don't know how bad they are. They beat the Cardinals, right? They're up 1.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you their next 3 games. I'm just going to rattle them off. At Denver, host the Bills, at the Eagles.
All losses.
That's what I think, too.
And I don't need any context. I don't need to know that they have a bye coming off a short week, games in London. Those are 100% losses. Those teams are all drastically better than them.
Yeah. I agree. They have a little bit of a winnable situation here. They come off at Eagles, come home, short week, Thursday night. They play the Chicago Bears in Washington. I like Washington here, actually.
I would have never picked Washington, but with what I've just heard, coming off a short week, you're at home. Those teams are typically the winners there. And Ron Rivera going up against a second-year head coach. I like Washington in that spot. I'm going to give Washington the dub.
I like the pressure of the front 4 there on Justin Fields.
Hey, that too.
They're going to keep it winnable, long week, but they go to back-to-back road games, Falcons, Giants. I don't know which one they win and which one they lose, but I'm going to split them there.
I like them to lose against the Falcons. I think I even said that on the Falcons pod. And are the Giants at home or?
It's at the Giants.
Yeah, I'm going to give the Giants the win here, but that's a splittable game this year. So as of right now, it's 2 losses.
Okay. As we go into the rest of their schedule, I'd just like to say that it is absolutely brutal. Absolutely brutal, including the last 6 it's insane. So they now, week 9, are at the New England Patriots. Loss. They're at the Seahawks. Loss. They host the New York Giants.
They're beating the Giants here. They're getting their 3rd win of the year.
Okay. They're then Thursday night. I believe this is maybe Thanksgiving, November 23rd, but they're at Dallas Cowboys Thursday. Yeah, it's Thursday, 4:30, so it's on Thanksgiving.
That's a loss.
Then they host the Miami Dolphins.
That's a loss.
Okay, they now finally bye week 14. They come out of the bye, and this is the rest of their schedule. At Rams, at Jets, host the Niners, host the Cowboys.
They got 1 win in there and 3 losses. They're 4-13.
Yeah,
And
I'm
I
gonna
said
give
I
them
would
off the
struggle to
bye.
give them 5 wins.
Yeah, off the bye, I'm gonna give them the Rams.
Yeah.
That's a tough schedule. Even when we gave them the win against the Bears, short week, the Bears come into town. They're beat up and tired. Justin Fields running all over the place.
And just to be clear, I think the Bears are better than them.
Yeah, I think I do too. I think I do too.
Yeah.
Man.
So 7 to 10 wins.
No, not anymore. I thought they could be. I think they're the same team they were last year. I don't think they got worse. Maybe a little bit worse at quarterback play, but I like what they did with the rest of the roster. But to play the NFC West, the AFC East, you pull the Broncos as your random team. You pull the Bears and the Falcons as your random teams, both teams who we both feel are massively improved from last year. Their easiest game is also week 1. They get the Cardinals out of the way. It's not sprinkled in between 3 good teams or anything. They just
How many did you give them? 4 wins?
4-13. I just swapped where they beat the Giants. I think they win on the road and lose at home.
So I said before I was going to struggle to give them 5 wins. I wasn't purposely avoiding giving them wins. Truthfully, off the schedule, I think that's where they're at. Let me guess. Vegas, 5.5.
6.5.
No, there's no way. There's
So
no way.
Yeah, it is in
There's
Vegas.
no way.
Their odds to win the division is only plus 1,000. It's not like plus 2,200. It's plus 1,000. So I have them at 4-13. Oops, we're on the wrong one. You have them at 4-13.
Yeah.
We're both taking the under heavy.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, 6.5 is their over under. Again, though, this defense under Ron Rivera, some of these rookie corner works out. They got a good corner safety in their first 2 draft picks. Their defense is still top tier. If Sam Howell can make some plays, they do have playmakers everywhere. I do think I have them at 4, but I think their ceiling. I think they could get to 7-10, but even that's a half game over the over that Vegas has set. So this team 7-10, but I think they have a top 8 draft pick at the end of the year. Might be up to Ron Rivera too. They may blow this whole thing up. They might fire Ron Rivera, give it to Eric Bieniemy, the head coach job, promote from within, and let him draft a quarterback. And say with this talent, they could maybe get a Drake May or a Penix Jr. Or Caleb, whoever it is, and let Eric Bieniemy finally have a shot. Who knows? Under new ownership, So they're going to have all that in the building. Bieniemy boiling up. Ron Rivera losing his job potentially. New ownership coming in. Their stadium's falling apart. The fans are the whole thing just seems like a bad situation in a relatively good division.
Yeah, so obviously we're moving on to the first of the 3 playoff teams from this division. The New York Football Giants. Last year they were 9-7-1. In division is where they actually struggled. They beat just about everybody else. They were 1-4-1 in division. So outside of that, they went 8-3. That's pretty freaking good. Outside division football, 8-3 is damn good. They signed Daniel Jones to. We've talked about this already, so we don't have to go deep into it. A very large deal that neither of us feel he was worth, but he's coming off a pretty solid year as far as turnovers go. Didn't throw for a ton of touchdowns. They did tag Saquon Barkley. Unfortunately, they did not get a long-term deal done, so it's either tag or sit out for Barkley at this point. More on that later, I'm sure. Adds. Lots of receivers. Tons of receivers. They add Paris Campbell, coming over from the Colts. James Washington, who I think was last with the Cowboys, former Steeler. Wide receiver Jamison Crowder. He's kind of been around the league a couple different places now. They drafted the wide receiver out of Tennessee, Jalen Hyatt. He was the Blifikoff winner. I think I'm saying that right. Last year in college football, best wide receiver in the country. Cornerback, Leonard Johnson, and then they traded for tight end Darren Waller, kind of in a weirder trade that nobody really seen coming. Losses, though, a couple of safeties, Tony Jefferson, Landon Collins, wide receiver Kenny Galladay, but that's not a loss. That's more of an addition by subtraction. But, yeah, this team is weird. They were a team that both of us did not see being very good last year. And not only were they good, I think they started the season 4-0, 5-0, and kind of coasted their way into the playoffs. And no, they didn't do much. The Eagles kind of beat down on them, but they made the playoffs. I mean, that says something, right? I'll let you take over.
Yeah, people are thinking, get right to the point. They made the playoffs because of, Saquon Barkley. They had the fourth best rushing offense in the league in terms of yards per game, or not yards per game, but yards overall. And they had the 27th ranked pass attack. I have this statistic here. I know some of you guys watched The Herd. I'll give some credit there. That's where I found this photo. But Daniel Jones, when they have 100 or more by their running backs, he was 5-0 with a 72% completion percentage, 7-1 TD pick with a 113 passer rating. When the rushing attack had 99 or less yards, he was 5-7-1, 65% completion, 10-5 touchdown pick with 86 passer rating. They're a run-first offense. They signed Daniel Jones before Saquon. Say what you want. That's what they do with, the running backs. It is what it is. He's still going to make $10 million. I think Saquon's still going to play. I'm going to treat this team as if Saquon's playing. But I know that I kind of low-key like the Giants. I don't know why I've always kind of liked them. Maybe I really have no idea. But Daniel Jones being able to run and pass, he's not like a jukey type of runner, but straight line speed. He can pick up yards quickly. Saquon Barkley, Isaiah Hodgins, and Darius Slayton, who are already on the roster. Slayton pretty good for a while. Sterling Shepard's still there, but Isaiah Hodgins really picked up late in the year. They have good tackles. Evan Neal and Andrew Thomas. This line is pretty good. Darren Waller, like you brought up, if he stays healthy, I really think this offense can go, because Brian Daboll, if he's shown you anything on what he did with Josh Allen and Daniel Jones, if you could take anything, he clearly limits turnovers. I don't know what it is about his offense, but they don't give the ball away a ton. Defensively, they were against the pass 27th against the rush, so nothing crazy. This defense, you can move the ball on them. So if Saquon Barkley sits out, I think this team draws dead. If Saquon Barkley plays, I still think they're fighting uphill, because they're going to need to outscore opponents that I don't know how much they did to really solve problems on this defense. So I think the Giants are a middle of the pack team. We remember a lot of those games early. They had those Saquon Barkley 2-point conversion. They won in London, like a lot of upsets. And with all those crazy wins, they finished the year after the bye week 3-5-1, and their wins were Texans, Colts, Commanders. This team really fell apart after the bye. They kind of figured it out. They weren't winning those close coin flip games. So I think the Giants are going to regress. But again, I'm kind of excited. I'm kind of excited to see, they made their bed. Now they're going to have to lie in it. I want to see Daniel Jones post payday.
Yeah. There's just a lot of pieces to like on this team. If they just weren't so bad at quarterback. I think we both like the head coach. Defensive tackle, Dexter Lawrence. Am I saying that right? Dexter Lawrence.
Yeah,
right?
with Leonard Williams right next to him. Kayvon Thibodeau just drafted.
Yeah, Kayvon Thibodeau. I mean, he kind of had some weird highlights last year, but that's their D-line. That is young and elite. I think that's top notch. That's top notch. They have arguably a top 3 left tackle in all football. If you take out Trent Williams, he's definitely in the discussion. Okay. So top tier offensive lineman. Saquon is what it is. He's a great running back when healthy. He's been injured. It doesn't look like they're going to pay him, but if he's going to be out there and he's playing, I think he's going to be good. Bringing over Darren Waller, who's been beat up, feels like a good move, especially for value. And I think he could help Daniel Jones, who, after they got rid of Evan Ingram, didn't really push the ball downfield last year, but he also didn't turn it over. I think this is a great move here. I think they got a very, 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 very good wide receiver in the draft, and Jalen Hyatt. I think big physical target. He can't be any worse than Kenny Galladay. You know, I think there are some solid pieces here. Slayton obviously still here. But I feel like this isn't a good football team because of the quarterback play. So I'm going to try to think when I'm predicting this schedule, can they win this game if Daniel Jones isn't terrific? I think that's how a lot of my predictions are going to be with this team, because I do think 9-7-1 is right in line with roughly where they're going to be, maybe 1 or 2 wins under. This isn't a 4-win team. I also don't think this is a 14-win team. It's just they're somewhere in the 6 to 8 range, if I had to guess, but I'm excited. I'm not going to pick based off that.
The hardest part is I think Daniel Jones showed improvement, because the first thing he did this year was limit turnovers. Now, next year, I think they plan to use him in a more extended role. But it's just tough when you played 16 games as a starting quarterback and threw 15 touchdowns. That's hard to look past.
You said he improved this year, and you're 100% right, but the improvement is so laughable. So
yeah, it's just by limiting turnovers. That's the only thing that I'm referring to.
No, but just like listen to these stats, because this man got paid. This is wild. First year he plays 13 games. He's 3-9, 61% completion, 3,000 yards, 24 touchdowns, 12 picks. Overall, that seems solid for a rookie. Okay. He follows that up with 14 games played the following year, 5-9, 62 completion, 2,900, almost 3,000 yards, 11 touchdowns, 10 picks. So he throws 2 less picks, but less than half the touchdowns in more games. Not great. Then in 2021, he only plays 11 games for whatever reason. I don't remember him being hurt that year, but I guess he was. He goes 4-7 in those games, 64%, which was a career high. It's gone up every year, 61, 62, 64. 2,400 yards, 10 touchdowns, 7 picks. Not great. And because, you're right. Last year, he improves. He plays 16 games. He has his best record, first winning season, 9-6-1. 67%, so he's up another notch. 3,200 yards, which is a career high. 15 touchdowns, which is, honest to God, horrendous for a starting quarterback, but only 5 picks. So the picks have gone down every year. The touchdowns are very weird because they started good, went down drastically, went down again, and then came up borderline. But the yards have increased mostly. The completion percentage has increased. Turnovers are going down. Wins are going up. It's just it's a weird stat line. I don't know what to think of it.
I just think that last year you look at everything that went on with Kenny Galladay, then everything that went on with Kadarius Toney, then everything that was Darius Slayton kept getting hurt. They were just throwing these like practice squad receivers out there too. So I just think that it's like he had no playmakers on the perimeter. Well, now he gets Jalen Hyatt, like you said, a good draft pick who can take the top off. Campbell, who hasn't been healthy, but the few games he plays, you have to respect his speed. But Darius Slayton, Isaiah Hodgins, who he grew a chemistry with, Darren Waller. I just think this team, I think it's ready for Daniel Jones to take the next step, but he has to. He has to, or this team's done. And it looks like
the next step, though?
Even if this year he's gone next year. The next step is to increase his touchdowns. You can make your picks go from 5 to 8 or 9 if you can get he has to throw for 25 touchdowns, I think. I think he has to throw for 25 touchdowns, and this team could be really good. This team could be really, really good if he throws for 25 touchdowns.
That's awfully low expectations.
Yeah, but
I understand it would be a career high, but that's awfully low expectations.
Well,
I don't think 25 gets it done. I don't think 25 touchdowns gets it done.
Why not?
I don't know. I just don't.
I think this team's fighting their best to be third in their division, so it's an awful lot for just the team that's,
Yeah. Hit me with the schedule. I'm ready.
Okay. The
Lost.
Giants.
No, I'm just joking.
All right. Well, they host Dallas Sunday Night Football to start. Lost.
Man, normally I would have said loss. I love them in this spot, weirdly enough. Home opener, Cowboys getting a ton of hype, being, a potential NFC favorite. Give me the Giants here. I talked myself into a Giants win right from the get.
I think this is one of the best spots for the Giants to get them.
Yeah, 100. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Tony Pollard coming off injury, no Zeke. Don't know the identity
Dallas
with the new offensive coordinator.
Smothers them. I think the Dallas defense smothers them. I think Cowboys could win this game like 17-14. Just low scoring. But if you have them beating Dallas, they then take a road trip out to the Arizona Cardinals, who I think we had them at 1 win. I don't know where we gave it to them, but we don't have the Cardinals doing shit. So
the Giants start off 2-0 again.
Thursday night at this 4-game stretch is brutal here. Thursday night at the 49ers.
Come on. Loss.
Then Monday night, they host the Seahawks. Really long week. It's like a 13-day week or 12-day week, something like that. Do math, Brad. 11 days.
I don't know who I took last week. I wish I remember. I like the Giants in this spot.
Get to the Giants here as well.
I like the Giants.
I have it at 2-2. You have it 3-1?
Yeah.
Okay. They're then at Miami, followed by at Buffalo.
Back-to-back losses here makes them 3-3.
That Buffalo game Sunday nighter again. They then host Washington. I think that's where you had Washington losing to them.
But
I beating them still after that.
Yeah, I'm giving the Giants the win. Now that I'm starting to switch on the Giants already, Joe. I don't know if I'm going to have the Commanders beating it anymore.
Then they have they host the Jets right after.
Give me their next opponent too before I say.
They to Las Vegas.
Okay, they won't be looking ahead to Vegas because it's not a divisional opponent. They're beating the Jets. Meadowland battle. They're beating the Jets, and they're beating Vegas. They are
Meadowland battle. How's that a 1 o'clock game, man? Come on.
Yeah.
So after the Vegas Raiders, this is a 3-game road stretch at Las Vegas Raiders, at Dallas, at Washington.
They're beating the Raiders. They'll lose to Dallas, and they're losing to Washington. They are 6-5.
They then come home to play New England. I don't think Daniel Jones can do anything versus Bill Belichick.
Is this a 1 o'clock game
on Fox?
Yeah, I'll take New England there.
Then they have a Week 13 bye week. I have them at 4 wins currently.
I got them at 6-6. 6-6.
I have 4. They come out of the bye week to a Monday night game, December 11th, where they host Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. Give them their 5th win there.
Yeah, I really like him in this spot too. Moved to 7 wins.
Then they're at the New Orleans Saints.
No, it's a tough spot for them. I like the Saints.
The following week, Monday night at the Philadelphia Eagles.
It's a loss. Eagles win that one.
They then host the Rams. December 31st, I think that's a win.
The Rams are the hardest freaking team to predict in this entire schedule, but I'm going to give the Rams the win.
And then they host the Eagles. So they go Eagles, Rams, Eagles to finish the season.
Yeah, it sucks. They're 7-10.
I have them at 11.
You have them
You're
at
at 7
6
and
and
10.
11. Yeah, I got them at 7-10. I could easily see them at 6-11 or 8-9. 9 wins does feel like a stretch. To get back to 9 wins feels tough for me. I think I was generous. I think I was generous too. I gave them a win over the Jets. I gave them a win over the Cowboys.
You gave them a win Monday night against the Seahawks.
I did. I was generous.
What do you think their over-under is?
I really like their head coach too, by the way. That's one of the reasons I'm giving them so much love.
Nice.
Truthfully, if you put – give me a random quarterback in the NFL.
Derek Carr.
Oh.
Kirk Cousins.
Love this team.
Yeah.
Not joking. Love this team.
Justin Fields.
Yes. All of the above. All the above.
Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. No, sorry.
No, but for real, Kirk Cousins is a good one, though, because I think Kirk Cousins on this team, this might be a 12-win team, dude. No joke.
Yeah,
it's a solid team without the quarterback play. What was the question, though, before I would start ignoring you?
Over-under.
Over-under. Oh, yeah. So last year they were – last year at 9. I've seen a ton of this so far from what you've been telling me. Vegas is taking these teams and they're subtracting a win and adding 0.5. I think 8.5.
It's 7.5. We
Yeah.
both have them on the under, though, naturally.
Yeah, which is where I think they are.
I'll win the division plus 750.
You know the great thing for them? This is a great thing.
What's that?
They made the playoffs and they're playing a third-place schedule. Not too many teams can say that.
Yeah, no, for sure.
That's a benefit of theirs. So they have a chance to re-go to the playoffs playing what is a weaker. I say weaker in parentheses because it's the NFL, man. There's too many good teams, too many improvements. Football is crazy. All right, we ready to go for the division champs or no?
The Cowboys.
Oh yeah, is that who we're talking? Yeah, Dallas Cowboys. Sorry.
Well, they finished second.
No, last year. Yeah.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Isn't that how we do the breakdown?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. All right.
Oh gosh.
They could.
Could what?
Win the division, absolutely.
You're picking them to win the division?
I haven't said that. I just said they could.
Oh. They could win the division. Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're proclaiming?
Yeah, that's all. I'm not out here saying Eagles are 14 wins, Cowboys are getting 9, maybe 10. No, that's not. Cowboys are really good. Really good.
All right. So the Cowboys, they're 2022. They were 12-5, 4-2 in division. Okay. Weirdly enough, they were 8-4 in conference. So literally, they went 4-1 in
the AFC.
In the AFC, they were great against the AFC last year. Very weird offseason for them. I'll just take it away here. So they fired Kellen Moore, which was kind of shocking because 2 years ago, Kellen Moore was kind of like the guy that people talked about, like they can't let leave the room. They would even fire Mike McCarthy in order to keep him, and then they get rid of him, which was kind of strange. But they hired Brian Schottenheimer, who was right there in Seattle for the Geno Smith turnaround. Okay. They tagged Tony Pollard. Those are kind of their key offseason moves. But then here are the ads. They add former defensive player Von Gilmore, corner, in a trade. They add wide receiver Brandon Cooks, who's been for pretty much every team in the NFL via trade. Running back Ronald Jones for some depth. First-round pick was defensive tackle Mozzie Smith out of Michigan. The losses, though, were a lot of guys you've heard of. Running back Ezekiel Elliott, parental Hall of Famer in this league. Wide one of the greatest college running backs of all times, comes in the league, just sets the league on fire with a great offensive line, and things just start to go south for Zeke. He kind of aged a little bit. Hall of Fame level tackle Jason Peters on the way out. He's kind of at the back end of his career, though. It's not a massive loss there. Tight end Dalton Schultz, who I think a lot of Cowboys fans were starting to really like. Linebacker Anthony Barr walks out. Wide receiver Noah Brown, who Dak started to get a little bit of a relationship with there. Anything else you have for ads, losses, off-season notes?
So what I have for some off-season notes, through the draft, they did draft Luke Schoonmaker at tight end to help make up for the loss of Dalton. They also drafted linebacker DeMarvin Overshown from Texas, who was the only real defensive player to talk about, really, from Texas last year. Really good player. And they also draft coaching staff Vaughn, who led Kansas State's offense to the Big 12 championship. So they did add some pretty, along with Mozzie Smith, some pretty good pieces through the draft. In terms of ads, I mean, those names, I feel like they added more than they lost. Tony Pollard, you'd hope he stays healthy. Is there a chance still that they could bring Zeke back? Or is that ship sailed?
No, I mean, here's the thing. You know how there's like this unwritten rule in the NBA that when you're a first round pick, if it doesn't work out, they just let go of you. Same with like a first round pick quarterback in the NFL, like Sam Darnold. For whatever reason, the Jets couldn't keep him as a backup. They had to move on for him. You know what I mean? Because it was at one point his franchise and now it's not. You know that weird unwritten rule?
I get it.
That's kind of what's going to go on here. Zeke was the highest paid running back in the league, I think, at one point. Pacing to be one of the greatest running backs in the history of Dallas Cowboy football. And then he just kind of, and I'm not by any means saying that Zeke is a fat person, but he got bigger, slower, injury prone, off the field issues. Things piled up. The money wasn't worth it. And unfortunately, his backup became better than him, which is kind of a rare situation. A lot of times, like, teams struggle to have a guy, so they have to draft some. No, they literally had a backup this whole time. And most football fans would probably agree with me that for the last 2-ish, 3-ish years, Tony Pollard's been the best running back on their roster. They just need to move on from Zeke because it's that weird dynamic of, well, this guy we took with the number 5 overall pick in the draft and made him the highest paid running back. Of course you can't start over him, even though you're better, you know?
Yeah. I just so Tony Pollard, assuming he can come back and bounce back from that injury, they still have Ronald Jones, Malik Davis. They'll get it done out of the backfield, some power. But Deuce Vaughn in the passing game, I believe, will have packages. CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks will not be talked about enough. He's literally been a baller everywhere he's gone, and people don't
everywhere
like that. They just don't want to talk about him like that. To be able to keep Michael Gallup as your 3, or God forbid, make Brandon Cooks your 3, like those 3 receivers on the field are a problem. This offensive line, until it's hurt, it's going to be healthy. So I'm going to treat it like that. And they have a top-tier offensive line. They're 8th against the pass. They add Stephon Gilmore, and they have Malik Hooker as a backup safety. They also have Jordan Lewis still on the roster. Their rush was 22nd. They add Mozzie Smith and DeMarvin Overshown through the draft to help bolster that. This team has a very, very good defense with a very comfortable defensive coordinator who's refused to take interviews for head coaching spots because he just enjoys coaching this defense. Mike McCarthy, he is a Super Bowl winning head coach. I know there's questions about clock management, but he's going to kind of help run the offense this year. And, it comes down to Dak's turnovers in big spots. This team is going to beat the brakes off some teams, and they're going to win and lose close games. But most of the time when they lose those close games, it comes down to Dak just having a poor game, not even a not great game. When Dak plays mediocre, this team's still going to win. It's just when Dak kind of shoots his foot, and when you have guys like Micah Parsons, Leighton Vander Esch, DeMarcus Lawrence, Stephon Gilmore, Trayvon Diggs, Javon, like they have such a good team on the back end that this offense doesn't need to score that many points. Yet they still do. They were 5th in touchdowns last year. They do score points. If this team limits turnovers and can take care of the clock a little bit better, just some fine details, this team is going to be tremendous and has every shot to win the NFC East year. This is a football team.
Quick stat spitting for Brandon Cooks, because I completely agree with your take. I'm going to give you games played, yards, and I'll throw touchdowns in there just for funsies since his sophomore year in the league. So games played, here we go. So 16 games, 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns, arguably his best season ever as a sophomore. 16 games, 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns. So back-to-back fantastic seasons. Goes to a new team, 16 games, 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. Pretty much a back-to-back-to-back consistencies. You know what you're getting. You're getting 16 games, you're getting 1,000 yards, you're getting 7 to 9 touchdowns, right? Goes to another new team, 16 games, 1,200 yards, so a career high, 5 touchdowns. So dip in touchdowns, but you're getting way more yardage. Is also just under a career high in catches too. Following year, 14 games, 500 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kind of a bad fit with that team. Things started to go south. There were some injuries there. Next year, new team again, 15 games, 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns. Back to that production that we've known. The very next year, back to 16 games, 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns. Literally, we know what this player is. Last year, he's beat up, misses 4 games. He plays 13 games, 700 yards, 3 touchdowns. I think it's easy to say that he plays 4 more. He is pacing for 1,000 yards in that 6 touchdown range. He is a 16-game player, 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns. That is what he is. They're getting that as their wide receiver too.
And that's the notion from people, because like there's been a couple playoff moments where he's gotten injured, that because everyone's watching those games, they're like, man, this guy just gets injured all the time. Outside of his first year, which is a rookie year, he's played 13 or more games in every single season. He's not injury like, well, Brad, he's missing some games. Sure, but you have CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup. You've got a rookie tight end, a running game that, like, Brandon Cooks is not the vocal point of this offense, but any team would be elated to bring him into their squad. So Brandon Cooks was a huge sign. Also takes some pressure off CeeDee Lamb big time.
Yeah, no, this is a top tier wide receiver 2 in this league. Is it T. Higgins? No, that's a top tier. Is this Jalen Waddle? No, but this is a damn good
ones that just happen to have the guy. Like,
yeah. So this is a great complimentary piece for CeeDee Lamb. I'm high on the Cowboys. I was last year too. This is a team that I just think has that next step in them. Last year, I predicted they would take the monkey off their back and win a playoff game. I also expected them to win a second one. They did not. I think they can win 2 this year. I think they're moving in the right direction. They're adding great pieces. You know, I just got done boosting up Brandon Cooks. I don't know exactly what Stephon Gilmore has left in the tank, but he's a solid corner still in this league, and he's their second corner. It's pretty damn good. I mean, it's kind of does this feel like a poor Miami Dolphins team with a better quarterback? Yeah, I did there.
I do see you did, but
I'm good for the schedule whenever you are, man. I think this team has a ton of wins in their future.
Yeah, so do I. We'll start out at New York Sunday night. You gave it a loss earlier. Still feel that way?
Yeah, just for the spot. It is a weird spot. New offensive coordinator. Not sure what's going on with Tony Pollard. I do think the Giants kind of upset him here, and it lights a fire under him.
Sunday night dub. Week 2, they come back home and they host the other New York team, the Jets.
Yeah, I think they're better than the Jets. I think the Jets. I'm excited to talk about the Jets too, but I think that this is a.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Audio is back up. You're good. Keep going. You think it's a what?
I just think this is a bounce back situation where they lost to New York, lights a fire under them. They regain some composure, get their identity right. W.
I'm just going to go to a sidebar real quick. I don't know if I believe the Cowboys or Jets are better. I think this is an absolutely great game. But I'm just going to sidebar here real quick because the Jets are a nice topic. They're on Hard Knocks. We're going to talk about them in depth later. But when you talk about – I'm going to go into the Jets just briefly. The Jets have a bye week 7. I just want to list their first 6 games. Monday night, host Buffalo Bills. Then they go to the Cowboys. Then they host the Patriots. Then they host the Chiefs. Then they're at Denver. Then they host the Eagles. That might be, I haven't looked at every team, but that might be the most difficult first 6 games any team opens up a season with. The 2 teams from the Super Bowl, they're at Denver, which is a tough place to play with an improved team. If you want to say their gimme is hosting New England and playing,
they haven't beat New England in 6 years.
I know you wouldn't do that, but I'm just saying a lot of people would be like, okay, let's just say you want to say New England is their gimme. If you think hosting Bill Belichick and that team is the gimme, it's a must. Like the Jets, though. I just wanted to put that out there that it could for the Jets there in the beginning, but I have the Cowboys at 2-0. You have them at 1-1. They face a really, really tough road test week 3 where they play the Arizona Cardinals.
Probably last second field goal. They're getting the win.
And then they host New England, which we just kind of went over. New England is going to the Jets and then to the Cowboys right after here in week 4. And the Cowboys are coming off the Arizona Cardinals. So I like the Cowboys one as well.
Yeah, the thing that I'm excited to do prior to us breaking down New England is the quarterbacks that this team has. Talk about the Patriots here. The quarterbacks they've been able to beat and the quarterbacks they haven't. They haven't been able to beat the good ones, and I'm on the fence that Dak's a good one. I think this is a loss for the Patriots, win for the Cowboys.
They then go on a 2-game road trip at the 49ers on Sunday night and then at the Chargers on Monday night. We get 2 bangers out of the Cowboys. We're watching them play the 49ers and then a week later the Chargers. Some great games. I'm going to put them 0-2 here.
ESPN will be unwatchable in week 7. They're winning both. They're starting this season off 5-1.
So I have them losing both of those road games and being 4-2. So we both think they're a good team. Week 7, however, is their bye week. It comes pretty early. They come off the bye and host the Rams. I have that as a win.
Still getting the W there. They're 6-1.
Then somehow it's only 4:25, but they are at the Philadelphia Eagles November 5th. We all know how these games go. Fourth quarter is going to matter. These teams are going to split. I got the Cowboys on the road.
Yeah, this is a game where they're 6-1 coming into this. They've beaten everybody that counts, and they'll give it a quarter to see how it looks, and if they can't get it done in the first quarter, then they'll lose. That's what's going to happen here. Eagles are going to come out hot against a real good football team that potentially has a division lead. We'll find that out in a minute. I do like the Eagles in this spot.
And then I'm going to go ahead and give you their next 3. They host the Giants, they're at the Panthers, and then host the Commanders.
It's 3 wins, man. This is a very good football team.
I agree that
they're just cruising. They're at 9-2 right now.
With that being said, this is maybe a little unfair. We'll see. But when they host Washington, that is Thursday for Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
The next week, they play the Seahawks on Thursday night, but the Cowboys are going to get a full week leading into that. The Seahawks will not. And it's also, this is 3 straight home games for the Cowboys. This is a huge break. Host the Commanders. A week later on Thursday night, they host the Seahawks. And then that leads into them having a 10-day rest where they host the Eagles December 10th. So that's home, and they get a long week into the Eagles. That's really, really big for the Cowboys here. I think they go on a 6-game win streak here.
Yeah, I like him to win these games. There's not too many teams that are going to have the wide receiver room in the cornerback room that this team does with what I believe to be an improved running game with Tony Pollard getting most of his touches. And I do believe that Deuce Vaughn will get some scat back shit. I think that is his spot as a receiving out of the backfield, kind of what Tony Pollard used to be, you know?
Yeah. So recap: they beat the Rams, lose to the Eagles, and then they rattle off 6: Giants, Panthers, Commanders, Seahawks, Eagles. Oh, 5 games in a row.
Do you have them at 11? I'm sorry. Do you have them at 13 total games here?
So I'm at 13 total games here. Yeah, that is through week 14, and they've had their bye. I have them at 9-4.
11-2.
I don't think that's right. I had them losing to the 49ers, Chargers, Eagles. So they should only have 3 losses. So I have them at 10 or 10-3. Okay, sorry about that. Now we're back. December 17th, they're at the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, just for Buffalo, obviously really competing in a hard division. The Cowboys have so many wins at this point. From what I have, this feels like a loss on the road in a cold environment. I'll take the Bills.
I think it feels like a loss, and they follow that up December 24th on a back-to-back road and go to Miami.
Yeah, I don't know if Tua is playing in this game. That plays into this. I'll take the Cowboys.
I'm going to put it back-to-back losses, but December 30th with, I believe, playoff implications on the line. December 30th, 8:15 p.m., Saturday, they host the Lions. That'll be a fun one.
Yeah, that's a good game. Cowboys are better than the Lions, and I think they beat them too.
I'm torn on this game. But the fact of the matter is they don't play the Eagles the last week. They're going to need wins. They come home. They're going to get that done against the Lions. And then the last week they're at Washington. I believe they get that win too.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's going to matter. I think they potentially would have the number 1 seed locked up. But if not, they'll have the number 1 seed, and they will be favorites in the playoffs, and people will be talking again. This is a 14-3 football team. Dallas is really good.
So I have them at 12-5. You have them at 14-3. Jeff, what do you think the over/under is for the Dallas Cowboys?
I'm high on them. Vegas probably is not because they're a traditionally underachieving team. Give me an over/under of 10.5.
It's at 9.5.
It's too low.
I think this is one of the easiest. Like I said, I go through, and when I listen to my college podcasts and professional, when we break down our stuff, I'm trying to make a list of my top 20 future bets for college and pro, which I will probably share once seasons get close. This is one I'm starring. I think the Dallas Cowboys are going to win 10 games. You're telling me the Cowboys could lose 7 games on this schedule and I would still win that bet? I'll take that all day. 12-5 and 14-3. I mean,
now one thing that I think I can be really good at sometimes. I just gave this team 14 wins. Let me play devil's advocate. Aaron Rodgers, San Francisco. Notice I'm not naming a quarterback, just saying San Francisco. Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, Seattle, who I think is really good. Jalen Hurts again, Josh Allen, Miami, who I think is really good. That's 8 opponents that 100% could beat them. That could flip this entire thing. If they went 500 against those opponents, they still have to beat the other teams on their schedule. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I still say, like, Detroit, I think, we're going to disagree on them quite a bit in that pod, but Detroit.
I don't think we are.
Okay, well, either way, you have Detroit, and then on top of that, Washington and New York, it's still divisional opponents, and everyone knows how those things can go at certain times. I do think they're much better teams, and it would be, holy crap, what an upset. But this is the NFL. These are professionals, and this is a divisional matchup. So, Like you said, there are spots. The only spot I truly disagreed with you on this list is, man, I would be shocked if they go to San Francisco and to the Chargers and win both of those. That's big time if they win those games. You have them 2-0 in
Here's
that
the
spot.
thing.
Sunday night.
They would have beaten San Francisco last year had Tony Pollard not gotten hurt. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean,
Dallas is more improved than the Niners are. That's my opinion.
Okay,
I'm not dissing the Niners. I don't remember how many wins I gave them was a shit ton. You know what I mean?
It was a lot.
I just think Dallas really improved. Obviously, I'm higher on Dak than you are, so I think they're always going to have a quarterback advantage versus 20 other teams where you don't. But that's not a dig. I'm just saying, like, naturally, I would think they would win more games. You know what I mean?
You had the Niners at 15-2.
Jeez Louise.
Just to reminisce, I'm going back to years, schedule by schedule. You had them at 15 dubs.
I must have had way too many Busch Light peaches.
Yeah, you had them at 15 dubs, and then when we redid it, which I think you had them down to like 12-5.
Yeah.
But I don't have that number in front of me.
Yeah. It's all right. Yeah, I really like the Cowboys. I think they're really good.
Yeah, they're dogs. Their over-under is 9.5, which I believe is too low. Smash that under. Them to win the division
Smash the over.
If you're looking for good value, the Cowboys are plus 175 to win their division. So it is plus money on them to win the division if you think they'll take it over the Eagles.
Yeah. Ready for the next team.
They got a tough schedule too. But yeah, I'm ready for the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm excited for this. So, the Philadelphia Eagles last year, their 2022 campaign was 14-3, 4-2 in division, and most notably, going into last year, they had lost a playoff game versus Tom Brady, looked really mediocre in it, had an average season. I think people projected them to be improved, but who knows how much. You took it a step further, and you're like, no, I think this is literally one of the top teams in the league. And when I'm like, what gives you that inclination? You're like, it's Jalen Hurts. Easily, you were the biggest believer in him. As much as you liked the Eagles team, you're like, this is 100% a Jalen Hurts jump as much as it is an Eagles jump, probably more so. Like that really stuck out to me. Yeah, you beat your chest for the Eagles roster, but you're like, no, Jalen Hurts is him. And you couldn't have been any more right. Like that was an absolute home run. I am intrigued to see what you think of the adds and losses, because one of the reasons you were so high on this team is because of the adds last year and how this team looked. I do think they lost a lot. So here we go. Adds. Well, first off, they lost both their offensive and defensive coordinator. Both those guys are gone. Okay. Do you have the names of the adds on those or no?
The coordinators? I don't have the ads or names, but I do know that the offensive coordinator has been with Jalen Hurts for I think close to a decade and was the quarterback coach last year for Jalen Hurts. So he's stepping up, and Nick Sirianni, the head coach, also play calling. But the defense lost quite a bit of pieces and is getting a new DC. So I don't have that name in front of me.
That's fine. Here are the ads. Running back Rashard Penny. Closet grade ad, by the way. Cornerback Grady Williams. Cornerback Terrell Edmonds. Quarterback Marcus Mariota. Running back DeAndre Swift. I want to talk about those two running backs in a minute, by the way. The losses. It's a big list. And I don't think I was just writing names down. I honestly feel like you as the listener, whether you're a super fan or average fan, I think you know a lot of these players. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who they acquired in basically a last-minute training day garbage time trade. They got him for a cup of coffee. He was a massive difference maker on that defense. They basically, they robbed the Saints on that. The Saints were having cap space hell. That's the only reason they got him. TJ Edwards, defensive end Robert Quinn, defensive tackle Javion Hargraves goes over to the Niners on a massive deal. Lendell Joseph leaves. Kaiser White, starting linebacker, leaves. Leading rusher Miles Sanders leaves. solid contributor to the playoffs. Ndamukong Suh leaves. Wide receiver Zach Pascal leaves. Backup quarterback Gardner Minshew leaves. So I'll let you take over, but I do want to talk about the running backs in a little bit. So go ahead. What you got?
Yeah, I'll try and save those for last. I do think that where they lost the most is their two middle linebackers and their two safeties. Marcus Epps, CGJ, Kaiser White, and TJ Edwards. All left. The middle deep part of their defense left. What they did replace that with, though, Terrell Edmonds, who can Steelers starting safety for a while. They do have one of the best slot corners in Devontae, and Nakobe Dean, who they drafted out of Georgia 2 years ago, he had the mic for the latter half of last year. So they got a lot there. They lose Javon Hargrave, who's a massive piece in the interior, was for the Steelers, the Eagles. Now he's a Niner. So think about the front sevens he's played with. But to have Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis both out of Georgia to replace that piece, I think it's just they're adding strength on strength. Offensively, they were 14-3. They're two of their three losses when Gardner Minshew had to play. So again, the difference maker a lot of times is Jalen Hurts. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, when you have those two guys plus Dallas Goedert, who's probably their third best receiver, I think most people acknowledge he's in the top 5 tight ends now. I think those guys open up a lot for their speedy receivers. Offensively, they have I'd say top 3 or 4 left tackle. They have the best right tackle and a top 2 center in the league. They do lose their right guard, but Landon, who is their left guard, was top 5 in Pro Football Focus against the pass and the run. So O-line, receivers, quarterback. Will we see what happens with the play calling? Nick Sirianni and the new OC. The defense, I still think is somebody good. They were number 1 last season in the entire NFL against the pass. They still have James Bradbury. They still have Darius Slay. They still have Avonte Maddox. Their safeties are at least guys who've started in the league. Their front, let's just call it their front 8 in terms of and defensive linemen. I think this team still is one of the strongest rosters, and you replace Miles Sanders with DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny. I'll let Jeff probably dive in a little bit more on Rashad Penny, but DeAndre Swift, I believe, didn't want to be a Detroit Lion. There was a lot of stuff about like him just like not enjoying the, it was more about Jamal Williams, who was like a personality. DeAndre Swift just kind of wanted to come and do his job. He's now going back for a real cheap deal to his hometown to play. And still, Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott, we've heard they use all their running backs on this team. The schedule will be the difference. Jeff pointed out that I was really big on the roster, a big believer in Jalen Hurts. But another thing I also harped on was I thought their schedule was just so incredibly easy and had so many breaks last year. That is not the case. I believe this division may come down to tiebreakers. I definitely expect the Eagles to take a step back, losing 2 coordinators in those pieces on defense. But I still think this team is a floor of 10-7. So I still think this is a tremendous team in the NFC. I still really like the Eagles, but you also have to talk about too, a lot of times teams, once they lose the Super Bowl, it's tough mentally to bounce back from that. I think the Eagles have enough players on this team with good leadership, good mindset, and some who've even won a Super Bowl recently. So maybe that won't happen, but losing the Super Bowl can always be tough.
Yeah, if you guys haven't had a chance yet, I did a 30-minute drive home pod the other day on running backs in the NFL. It's something that I feel like I've always been really ahead on. I feel like I was talking about this years ago, how I just wouldn't pay running backs anymore. And, when the Christian McCaffrey trade went down, I was pretty vocal about that, how I didn't think it was a great trade. But if you would have told me before last year that I could have DeAndre Swift and Rashard Penny instead of Miles Sanders, I would have instantly traded you. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll trade you literally right this second. Miles Sanders had a career year, like way better than any year he had ever had. Okay. His career high attempts going into last year, 179. Career high rushing total going into last year, 867. Career high touchdowns, 6. Last year, 259 carries for almost 1,300 yards and 11 touchdowns. Career highs all across the board while averaging damn near 5 yards a clip. Okay. With that said, they replaced him with a running back who averages 5.5 yards a clip and a running back that averages, for a career, 5.7 yards a clip. So basically, they found their production in two very quality running backs. One of them, but actually both are pretty young. Neither have really lived up to their draft potential. Both were first rounders. Swift might have been a second. Penny was a first. This is a massive pickup. I couldn't have stressed any more on the pod the other night how running back by committee wins in the league, and that's exactly what this is. You go out and you pay your quarterback. You can't pay your running back. So what do? You go out and you get quality running backs. This is a huge move for Philadelphia. And I expect this to be the notion moving forward. Teams that pay their running backs are not paying their quarterbacks because they don't believe in their quarterbacks. And the only example in the entire league in this season might potentially figure this role out, but the Cleveland Browns. It's the only team I can think of that pays a running back and a quarterback. You could also argue the Browns have a lot of holes in other places because of that. So I am interested to see where this landscape goes. I think the Eagles have already figured it out. They have their quarterback. They got A.J. Brown. They got their weapons. They got young wide receivers in Smith, tight end and Goddard. They have their offensive line. And they're like, we don't need Miles Sanders. You were great. You helped carry this rock. You led a committee last year, but unfortunately, we need production cheaper. And they got two guys that I think are just perfect roles for this team. Perfect roles.
Yeah, I think that when you compare, if you want to, the Cowboys and Eagles, I think that the will have a slightly regressed defense. So I think the Cowboys will have the edge there. But I think the Eagles, again, could have one of the best, if not maybe the best offense in the NFL. Last year, they were 8th in passing, 5th in rushing, 2nd in touchdowns with 32 running and 25 passing. And defensively, they were 1st against the pass, 16th against the rush. So I think they were the only team in the NFL to finish top 10 in both offense and defensive efficiency if they weren't top 5. So, again, a little bit of regression, but this team has 2 corners who can lock you up. They have a plethora of defensive linemen so that through the entire game, they're always going to be good to go. The best offensive lineman line in the NFL. A top 5, 6, 7 wide receiver in A.J. Brown, top 10 for sure. They have one of the top 5 twos in Devontae Smith. They have a double-headed backfield of running backs. They have a tight end. And you could argue they have a top 5 quarterback. Some may have him at 6 or 7. But regardless, in the NFC, he's number 1. Best quarterback in the entire NFC. So when we go through these lists and we're giving the Cowboys a bunch of wins and the Eagles a bunch of wins, I know they're in the same division, but let's not forget, outside of the 49ers, those 3 teams seem like the best. And one of these 2 teams are most likely going to have to be the 5 seed. It's pretty crazy that these 2 teams got to live that way.
Yeah, that's a good point. Both of these teams could potentially win 13-plus games. That's on the table.
Eagles slaughtered every team until they played. Well, you could say the 49ers, but we know the injuries in that game. But they get to the playoffs. 49ers win their game, easy. Cowboys blow the brakes off the Buccaneers, and then they play each other. Like, these 3 teams are kind of on a that first seed really, really matters because there's likely going to be 2-5, and you want to avoid those games. So, 2 tremendous teams. The Eagles, they're nice.
Hit us with that schedule.
Week 1, I know you've talked a lot about this, at the New England Patriots.
Yeah. I mean this. This is a trap game for the Eagles. It truly is. People are undervaluing New England. I'm not saying New England's win the Super Bowl. My full take on them will come later. But they are not a pushover. And if you have them as the 4th team in the AFC East, I think you're wrong. Do I think they're winning the AFC East? Maybe. Who knows? But this isn't a bum team. They actually match up extremely well with the Eagles. Tom's going to be in the house. Super Bowl hangover for the Eagles. This screams New England to me. Home opener. I like New England in this spot.
By the way, week 1 right now, you can get it while it's hot. The Patriots are getting 4.5 points and outright plus 180.
Yeah.
Nice little bet there for you if you want it. Week 2, they host the Vikings in Thursday Night Football. Remember last year, I think they went to, but it was the Vikings on Monday Night Football in week 2, and they beat them like 23-7 or something. Yeah. So now it's Thursday night, week 2, both teams on a short week. Minnesota will get to next week, but I have the Eagles.
What time was the game at?
Thursday night. Hey, he's like 11-17. Okay, it's not as bad as people say, but yeah, it's they host Minnesota on Thursday night.
Nope. Keep it moving.
Then they get an extra long week. They play Monday night against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Tampa Bay's a shell of what they were.
W.
Win for the Eagles.
Then they host the Commanders. W.
Yeah.
Then they're at the Los Angeles Rams. Remember, I am really out on the Rams this year, but it's up to you if you still have Matt Stafford and then if you still think they can win.
No, I think even with Stafford, this is a team that has question marks, but I think the Eagles, I still pick the Eagles today.
Back-to-back road spot after going out to LA, they come back to the New York Jets. Remember, we talked about the Jets having a brutal opening 6 games. Already be a must-win for the Jets. What I look at off the top is the Eagles' D-line versus the Jets' O-line. Jets still have a good defense there, but I just think that might be too much of a mismatch. This Jets O-line is not what Brady got with the Buccaneers. It's not even close to that. It's maybe a bottom 10 O-line. Worst O-line Rodgers has had in his whole career.
I don't think it's bottom 10. I think you're being a little unfair. I hate the Jets. I think there's pieces there. There's definitely pieces there. Regardless, I think the biggest factor is Sauce Gardner on A.J. Brown, and then what else happens? Philadelphia is going to be...
It'll be that DJ Reed on Devontae Smith. So good matchups.
It's great matchups, but at the end of the day, I really, really, really like an Eagles run game in any kind of situation like this where the corner is just going to be too much. Aaron Rodgers going up against that style of defense. I don't love the Jets. Yeah, this is an Eagles win. Should be 6 games. I got them at 5-1.
Yeah. Also, I have them at 6-0. And before I did the Jets game, I kind of wanted to give it as a loss just to say I don't know where it's at, but they're going to lose in the one game.
Oh, week 1. Week 1.
But at the same token, that's not how we do this. We do it out of a vacuum, week to week, pick the games. I got them at 6-0 again. I don't know if they'll do it again, but that's where I got them. They then host the Miami Dolphins, traveling to the New York Jets. They come back home to host the Dolphins.
Yeah, I think they're better than the Dolphins. It is interesting because obviously Jalen Hurts.
That'll be a great Sunday night game.
The storyline of this game is that Jalen Hurts was pulled in a national championship game for Tua Tagovailoa. Jalen will never forget that a single day in his life. He's the most humble dude at this point. I mean, Jalen's extremely humble, but don't tell me he'll ever forget that. This is an Eagles dub.
They're then at Washington. I have them sweeping Washington.
Yeah, I mean, Washington, honestly, God, the fact that they got to win over them last year is wild. They're not beating them.
Then they host Dallas. I believe we both had them splitting the home and home here.
Yeah, so I'm giving them the home to W.
Their bye week is week 10, and I have them at 9-0. I
have them at 8-1.
Yeah, and your win is the Patriots. Listening are probably like they're both got them at 9, but I like your explanation. They have a bye week 10. Okay. Which means they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're gonna split these into 4s. Okay, you just give me their win-loss here, but I'm gonna list you their next 4 games off the bye. They come off the bye week to Monday night at Kansas City. They then host the Bills. They then host the 49ers. then they're at Dallas. That's a really fucking tough 4-game stretch.
That is the toughest 4-game stretch in all of football.
At Kansas City, host the Bills, host the Niners, at Dallas. They get the Chiefs in a good spot because it's off the bye. I like them hosting Buffalo. I like that they host I like where it's at, but I feels like a to me.
2-2. Nick Sirianni would take the boys out for beers after that stretch.
Well, I think they can beat Buffalo because the Buffalo's O-line isn't that great, and I have concerns with Buffalo this year.
I agree.
I think they can beat San Francisco, but San Francisco's in a big-time revenge spot. But you could talk about Monday night at Kansas City, big revenge spot on a bye week, long week for the Eagles. At Dallas, I think they could sweep Dallas. So I know that's 4 great teams, but the Eagles are of this caliber. And I'm going to have them at 2-2 there. So I'm just going to add 2 wins. I don't know where they're coming, but they're going to go 2-2.
I said 2-2 as well.
The reason why I said I'd split that is because after Dallas, this is their next 4. It is a back-to-back road trip, remember, when we're starting this. So at Dallas Sunday night. Then it's at Seattle. They host the New York Giants on Monday. Then they host the Cardinals. Then they're at the Giants. I think they could end it. I think they're going to go 3-1 in that stretch. They either lose to Seattle or drop one to New York.
I have them also going 3-1 in that stretch. One of those losses could legitimately be the last week of the year because they wrapped up the division by beating the Cowboys in that 4-game stretch.
Yeah, so how many wins you got them at?
I got them at 13-4, just like the Cowboys.
And I have them at 3. The difference here, I believe, is the Patriots game. I think we saw most of that the same.
I truly believe that the Patriots game is a bad spot for the Eagles, especially because the Patriots are being. I mean this in like the most non-biased way too, because I'll be biased and I don't care sometimes. I think the Patriots are one of the most underrated teams in the entire football league this year.
I'm pretty high on the Patriots too. Higher than I don't know if I'm as high as you, but I am. Anybody I talk to that's not a Patriots fan, I'm higher on the Patriots than they are.
Oh,
and again,
everybody thinks they're dog shit. Literally everybody thinks they're dog shit.
We'll get into that when we get to the AFC East. I'm sure you guys listening are excited to hear the AFC East and AFC North, considering there are teams, our 2 favorite teams are in there. But what do you think the over-under is for the Philadelphia Eagles? 14-3 last year, lost the Super Bowl.
12-5, or it's a joke.
11.5 is their over-under.
What is it?
11.5.
No, it's too low.
That means they can only lose 5 games.
They can hit the under. They can hit the under if Jalen Hurts breaks his leg.
But still, at New England, at New York Jets, they play the Dolphins, Cowboys twice, at the Chiefs, host the Bills and Niners, at Seattle. That's cross-country. I mean, there's a lot of time here. I have the over, but I don't think it's a lock. I could see 11-6 out of this team. I mean, what if Dallas snipes them twice? What if they trip up in the opening games? What if they lose to New England? What if they, this or that? So I don't think it's a lock. I have them over. I have 14-3, which I predicted last year. I think I predicted 15-2 last year, and they went 14-3. I don't feel as great about this 14-3, but game by game, I just think the Eagles, there's not many teams better than the Eagles. I just think there's a reason they made it to the Super Bowl. And they, you look at how much any play can matter. They lost, a couple fumbles in that game. Patrick Mahomes will do what Patrick Mahomes do. So,
yeah, I think a lot of times what I'll do to you is I'll give you a scenario, and you'll have to tell me how the team will respond based off that scenario. I'm going to give you one that I don't think I've ever done for you yet.
Say quick before you give that, though, the Eagles, another thing, they were tremendously healthy last year. I don't know if you can repeat that.
Yeah. What if the defense doesn't what if these defensive players that we think step up and are great, what if they're not? That's the one scenario I have. Because everything else seems pretty straightforward. I don't know if you agree or disagree. I think the Eagles are pretty straightforward. But what if the defensive pieces, Jalen Carter, is it Noah Smith?
It's
Nolan Smith, sorry.
Carter and Jordan Davis. And
Jordan Davis. Like, what if these defensive pieces just aren't? What if they really missed Javion Hargraves? Like, what if Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is just like a massive loss? What if this defense is honestly, I'm not going to use the word liability because I don't think they'll be that bad. What if they're bottom half? 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
If you take all the new pieces and they don't perform that well, still think this defense is around the 10 mark, simply because Jordan Bradbury, Darius Slay, two great corners, Brandon Graham, Hassan Reddick, Fletcher Cox.
Yeah.
And then when you're coming in, we've already seen Jordan Big Baby Davis do some good things in that D tackle spot just on his pure size alone. They draft this Jalen Carter guy who's supposed to be him. Nolan Smith, his coming out with Hassan Reddick, but like he's going to be on the like these guys are all seeing one-on-ones until they prove they need more. You talk about another Georgia guy under the radar. They drafted Keely Ringo, who at one point had a first-round grade and fell all the way to 4 for whatever reason, but a big body corner who can probably play some good stuff in the red zone. But he was a key piece for Georgia as well. Even if they don't play up to potential, I still think this defense at worst would be like 12th in the league. Last year they 3. So even if they regress 2 to 3 times way worse, they're still going to be a top half. And as long as Jalen Hurts is on the field, I mean, this offense has weapons all over the place. Goddard, Brown, Smith, 2 running backs, O-line. We talked about it. It'll be the coordinators. I'm interested to see what happens there, change coordinators. But
so let's start with the poll question. You ready? Eric Anderson writes in, could the Commanders jump New York for second in the division with Bellamy and OC, a solid defense, even with quarterback trouble? So I think we've kind of talked about this. I hope you mean third and not second, because the Cowboys are still top 2 and so are the Eagles. Cowboys are top 2.
He meant them flipping because last year the Giants finished third and they were 1 win ahead.
Yeah. Could the Commanders jump them? So I guess the Commanders do have this going for them. They're playing a 4th place schedule where the Giants are playing a 3rd. I'll let you take this away. I'm just not high enough on Washington. I don't think they have what it takes.
I'm gonna say yes for 2 reasons. One, there's a possibility Saquon doesn't play.
Yeah, that's on the table.
And secondly, although you pointed out that the Commander, well, I guess this works against it, but you pointed out the Commanders play a 4th place schedule.
Mm-hmm.
That means they drew the Bears and the Broncos, who we both think are dramatically better than maybe the 3rd place teams have gotten in those divisions. So, of course, there's a chance it'll come down to their games head-to-head, and they were both, I mean, whether you like them or not, they were both bangers last year when the Giants and Commanders played each other, both really good games.
Yeah.
Yes, I think there's absolutely a chance. But in my prediction, I have the Giants 2 wins ahead of them, and I have the division out in the exact same order as last time.
So the poll question tonight was, who wins this division? There was 16 total votes. Who do you think got the most?
I think the Eagles still got the most. If I had to guess, I'd say Eagles 8, Cowboys 6, and then 2 people trying to be funny voted for like Giants or Commanders.
Nope, Eagles got 14, Cowboys got 4.
Holy shit.
Now the Giants didn't get a single vote, Commanders didn't get a single vote.
So there was 18 votes?
16.
You said 14 and 4.
Sorry, did I? I meant 12 and 4. Thought I said 12 and 4. Yep, 12 votes and 4 votes. The weird thing is I have both teams at 13 and 4, so I am here to choose one. I am choosing the Cowboys to win the division. Who are you choosing?
I'm gonna take the Eagles. I didn't say it real quick, but the Eagles over under 11.5, but them to win the division is minus 110. So almost even money. Their favorites minus 110, and the Cowboys barely below them, but still plus 175.
Yeah.
I usually ask you this question, but I'm just gonna run through my list. Tell me if you disagree. I like to rank all the divisions by their head coach quarterback combo. In fourth, I have Ron and Sam.
Yep.
And Brian and Daniel. In second, I have Mike and Dak. And in first, I have Nick and Jalen. Do you have any dispute on that? Just going head coach quarterback?
Nope. I 100% agree.
Last two are pretty fun. And this one, I was like, I kind of feel like that's pretty straightforward here.
No, I agree. We both had Jalen above Dak. Obviously, you were much lower on Dak in the QB rankings. I was much higher, but we both had them above Dak. I will say this.
Even if you don't love Sirianni, you can't love Mike.
Well, I disagree. I don't think you can hate Mike, and I think he's the most hated coach in the read. I think he's the most hated coach and probably the most underrated coach in the sense of like the dude has only won since being in Dallas, but yet he's almost the blame for every single loss. It can't just be him.
Also, the other thing too, on like this natural shade towards Mike McCarthy, he played with Aaron Rodgers, who a lot of people have strong feelings towards, and then he went to the Cowboys, who a lot of people have strong feelings. So he's coached really well outside of a few clock management issues. He's coached really well two organizations that a lot of people have disdain for and that are often talked about. So it's like you don't even really know Mike. You just know he gets a winning record. You know, he wins games. So there's something to be said there.
Yeah. Last thing before we move on from this division. You know, Dak Prescott obviously was hurt last year. He was hurt 3 years ago. I do think this is a bounce back, fully healthy year, and I think that he will finally give you a reason to. I don't think you're going to put him top 10 because obviously who you have the top 10s who you have, but I do think that you're going to value Dak a little bit more after the season. I think this is finally it. This is the year that you value Dak more than what you currently value him.
We'll see. I'm not opposed to it. I like Dak, and I've never had a reason to hate the Cowboys. I like too when he was the quarterback there. I just think we'll see. I hope he does good. I like watching all teams when they're playing good. I like betting on football, watching football. So I like it when Dallas Cowboys fans get fired up, and it's nice to see him in the playoffs too. I want the best teams there. So I hope Dak plays well, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I think that is it, unless you have something else.
No, I don't think I have, and I just I think we're good. I think it's a shame that we don't get Eagles Cowboys week 18, but it is what it is.
Yeah. To be honest, the NFL, I mean, they should think of that shit. Like, the chances of either of them having it completely wrapped up against one another is honestly, it's more unlikely than likely. They should have had it the last week of the year. But
yeah, and something that's crazy too about the Eagles, kind of looking at their schedule, in terms of division, they play Washington, then Dallas, then the Giants, then the Giants. It's not like mixed up. They knock out each opponent as they go.
That is interesting. Remember 2 years ago, Chargers, I know you remember this game, Chargers Raiders on week 18, and it literally was the last game, Sunday night, whether or not they were going to tie, I was going to keep Steelers on the play. You remember this, right?
Yeah.
Can you imagine the rating of a week 18 Sunday night football to close the season? Eagles, Cowboys, winner gets the 1 seed, loser goes to the 5 seed. Can you imagine the rating on that pup?
It'd be insane.
I just need to be in charge of scheduling football games. That is my calling in life. I think I've realized.
It was one of the first things I looked at, and I was like, "Damn."
Boo.
Dallas plays Washington, and Eagles play the Giants. Like, come on.
I have a new calling.
Eagles come out at 5. Chiefs, Bills, Niners, Cowboys. Whew.
Filth.
There's some people who would, if they rank the top 5 teams in the NFL, they would have the Eagles in there and then those 4 teams. Obviously, the Bengals and other teams, people put in, I get that. I'm not saying it's definitive, but there are people out there that could pass that as their top 5 teams because they wanted to, biased NFC or whatever. It's crazy.
How many times do you have the schedule still in front of you?
For the Eagles, yeah.
Of that 4-game stretch, can you read me the times?
Okay, in order. Monday night, 8:15, Kansas City.
Perfect. Primetime. Got it.
Then CBS, the 4:25 game is them against the Bills. That'll be Jim Nantz and Tony Romo.
Perfect slot for that.
Then Sunday, December 3rd, home against the 49ers, 4:25 on Fox with Greg Olsen and Burkhardt, I think his name is.
Yep. Perfect slot.
And then
Okay.
Sunday,
Finish
December
me off.
4th,
Sunday Night Football.
Sunday Night Football on NBC, Dallas Cowboys.
Let's go.
Eagles.
Dude, that's...
Hey, could you imagine Sunday Night Football? Eagles are 3-0 after the bye coming in. Just put, like, what if they beat the Chiefs revenge game? Bills come into town. Josh Allen gets lost. Play the 49ers, young quarterback. Maybe they're injured again, switching. Could be anything. Then they go to Dallas. Oh, man. They could be 0-3.
Yeah.
They lose to the Chiefs in the rematch. Josh Allen takes them to town. They then can't get out of their own way against the 49ers front. Now they're playing Dallas on a 3-game skid. Like, it's crazy.
I'm just glad the NFL did that stretch
when
up
they're
right.
at Seattle. Yeah, after Dallas, it's at Seattle, 4:25 Fox. Then it's the Giants on Monday because it's Christmas, December 25th. Monday, December 25th, 4:30 on Fox. So it's probably like 2 or 3 games on Christmas. So they're going to be in prime time again. And then,
literally don't, if you're an Eagles fan, don't buy the Sunday ticket this year. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and then they beat the piss out of the Cardinals December 31st. They just fucking walked the Arizona Cardinals.
Oh my gosh.
They sent the Arizona Cardinals to lock up the first overall pick on the 31st.
They gift him Caleb Williams just like that. Goodness gracious. NFC North coming next week. Packers, Lions, Bears, Vikings. Super, super, super excited to talk about that pod. We've tiptoed along the Lions, Bears, Packers, Vikings literally this entire breakdown so far this year. I can't wait to just full on just like bam.
You could almost make a pod on each one of those teams alone. You could almost do it. Like there's so much meat on the bone there. And by the time we do that pod, I'll have finished the quarterback series on Netflix. So I'll have some insight on Kirk Cousins, hopefully, or be able to bounce off that. Great series. Can't wait for next season.
Yeah, good stuff. We're out. Real talk.
Real